Welcome to Crime in Court. This is the 1996 Menendez brothers trial. Reading through the transcript, we unfortunately don't have video of the trial. Judge Weisberg, in his infinite wisdom, decided basically to rule against himself for almost everything from trial one, and he decided no cameras in the courtroom for trial two. So there was a mistrial. The jury could not decide on the charges for trial one, so we are here for trial two. And as we know, they were both convicted with life without parole. We are awaiting, they have three potential paths to sentencing or to resentencing or to release. So one is the resentencing request, which goes up in front of a superior court judge, and there's the current DA, who is a total tool. Nathan Hochman is a tool. He, I just like to say that. He put in like a withdrawal request to withdraw the original resentencing request from George Gascon, who was the DA prior to Nathan Hochman, although he has zero authority to do this. So he's actually going to be, I believe it's April 11th, but don't quote me on that. I believe he's going to be up against, or maybe I think it's May 11th. Yeah, May 11th. He's going to argue his withdrawal request, and then the following week or so after that is when the brothers are going to go up against, or not go up against, they're going to be in front of the judge, and their attorneys are going to be arguing the resentencing request. There's also a clemency request, which, as you probably already know, Governor Newsom has already put in the risk assessment. We know that that could take a couple months. So their resentencing hearing, which was scheduled for, originally it was January, which got pushed back because of the fires, the LA fires. Then it was February, and because of the clemency risk assessment that Governor Newsom ordered, the resentencing request or hearing got pushed back now to May. I believe it's in May. So there's that. The clemency, like I said, so clemency, resentencing, and then the habeas corpus, which, due to new information, which consists of the letter that was found by Andy Cano, well, in Andy Cano's effects after he had passed away. Reporter Rob Rand, journalist, reporter, he actually became part of the story in trial one, and I forgot about that. He was called to testify. Um, because Donovan Goodreau, he was an impeachment witness to Donovan Goodreau, I believe it was. Or was it a different one? Oh, now I can't remember. It was one of the friends of the brothers. I just read that in the Rob Rand book, which was excellent. Really good recounting of the Menendez brothers and their trial and everything. I was going to, what was it? I just wanted to tell you the title of his book, which if I click on it, it's going to start playing. So let me go to title details. It is The Menendez M Word Homicide, the shocking untold story of the Menendez family and the KI double Lings that stunned the nation. And it's really good. I listened to it on Audible. And it's a really good recounting of what happened in the trial and everything. So if you guys want a recap of that again. All right, so um, it's also good to get a different perspective too. I thought he did an excellent job reporting it and trying to stay neutral, pretty much. Um, all right, so today we're going to go over Donovan Goodreau. Oh, I was in the middle of telling you the two. Sorry, I totally lost my train of thought. I was in the middle of telling you the two new pieces of information that could lead to a new trial for the brothers. That's not necessarily the path that they want because ultimately they want to be freed because they've served 35 years. So the habeas also will be in front of a judge. So Nathan Hochman has no real um, decision in it. So that is good. And of course, Gavin Newsom could always let them go at any time after this risk assessment is completed. All right. So today we're going to talk about Donovan Goodreau. We're on part 16 of the state's case. We're still in the state's case. And we are going to be going over the testimony of the former friend Donovan Goodreau, who, if you remember, got into an altercation with Lyle. They were no longer friends. Jose Menendez did not like Donovan, and eventually Donovan's ID was used to purchase the shotguns that were used in the homicides of their parents. After Donovan's testimony, we will read through Richard Wenskoski's testimony. He was one of the bodyguards that was hired by the brothers. So that's where we're going to go, or that's what we're going to do today for our read through. Let me shrink myself here. Please hit that like button and let's begin. We are going to have the state call Donovan Goodreau to the stand. The clerk swears him in, and we're going to begin direct examination. And I have pictured on the screen for you. Next to me is that way. I can't ever, it's opposite on the camera, and it's really confusing. So this guy right here, that's Judge Stanley Weisberg. He presided over both trials. Then below me is Um, in order, that's Carol Nahara, Charles Gessler Carol Nahara is for the state. Sorry, she's the prosecutor. Then below her is Charles Gessler, who is representing Lyle, and below him is Leslie Abramson, who is representing Erik. She is the only returning attorney in this trial. All right, let's begin. So Ms. Nahara says, "Sir, your full name is Donovan Goodreau, or Donovan J. Goodreau." Yes. "And sometime in 1989, did you meet the defendant Lyle Menendez?" Yes. "Do you recall when in 1989?" "Around Valentine's Day, February." "And where were you living in 1989, in February of 1989? What city?" "I had just moved east." "To where?" "To Princeton." "To what state?" "New Jersey." "And did you meet the defendant Lyle Menendez in Princeton, New Jersey?" "Yes." "Now, sometime after you met him in February of 1989, did you become his roommate?" "Yes." "Do you recall when that was?" 1st of April. "And where did you and the defendant Lyle Menendez live?" "On campus, Gauss Hall." I don't know if I'm saying that right. "When you say on campus, can you tell us what are you talking about?" "In his dorm room, 115 Gauss, I recall." "And what campus is this?" "Princeton campus." "Now you were living in Princeton, is that right?" "Yes." "Had you lived in California previous to living in Princeton?" "Yes." "Did you have a California's driver's license?" "Yes." "And in 1989, did you possess a California driver's license?" "Yes." "And Your Honor, I have what has previously been marked People's 49. I would like it marked Exhibit 131 for identification." Court says, "Okay, 131." Ms. Nahara says, "And counsel has seen this." "And sir, showing you Exhibit 131, would you take a look at that and tell me if you recognize it?" "Yes." "Could you tell the jury what that is?" "That's my California driver's license." "And is this some kind of a microfiche copy of it?" I don't know what kind of copy it is." "Okay. And is the copy of the driver's license that you possess is this the copy of the driver's license that you possessed in 1989?" "Yes, it is." Now, when you became roommates with the defendant, Lyle Menendez, in April of 1989, did you possess the actual hard copy of the driver's license that is depicted in 131? Yes. Now, at some point, did you move out of the place that you were staying with the defendant? Yes. And when was that? Mid-May. He didn't last very long there as a roommate. Now, from April 1st to mid-May, excuse me, from April 1st to mid-May, while you were living with the defendant, did you possess the driver's license? Yes. Now, in mid-May, when you moved out, how was it that you moved out, if you can describe the circumstances? Circumstances to my moving out? To your moving out. Lyle and myself had gotten in a fight. He asked me to leave, and I moved to New York City. Now, when he asked you to leave, what did you do? I packed up right then and there. And what did you pack up your things in? We had milk crates around, so I kept most of my things in milk crates we had stocked up. Just threw them in the back of my truck. So you packed up your things. What kind of things did you pack up in the milk crates? Clothes mainly. Do you recall how many milk crates you had packed with your things? Several. Now, after you had all of your belongings packed in the milk crates, what did you do with the milk crates? Lyle went off to get the truck, drove up to the window, and we loaded everything through the window. When you say the truck, what truck was that? My truck. What kind of truck was it? A 1974 Harvester pickup truck. Now, you had all your personal belongings packed in these milk crates, and you said that this truck was at the window. What did you do with the milk crates? Pass them through the window into the truck. When you say we, who was involved in this? Hayden Rogers, Glenn Stevens. I don't think Lyle helped. I'm sorry? I didn't hear the last part of what you said. I don't think Lyle helped. Was this like an assembly line of moving the crates? Sure, I think there was someone in the truck and we passed it through the window. They would put it in the back of the truck. Now, after you got all of your belongings loaded into the truck, what did you do? Drove off. Now, at some point, did you check for your driver's license? Yeah, pulled over. What after you drove off did you do? What after you drove off did you do? Weird question. Once before I got off campus, I things were scattered in the back of the pickup truck and I wanted them right up in the back and I didn't know where my wallet was, so I was going through them kind of superficially looking for it. When you went through this, about how much time had passed when you left until you went through your things to look for your wallet? 5 minutes. So 5 minutes after you drove off, you're looking for your wallet. What happened? I didn't find it. Did you look specifically for your driver's license? I was looking for my wallet, but yes, my driver's license as well. Where did you keep your driver's license? When? At the time, the at the time that we're talking about in May of 1989. Most of the time, it was just on a shelf in the dorm room, kept with other student IDs. So if you always had it there, then wouldn't you have grabbed it on your way out? I guess maybe in the chaos of everything, you probably didn't think about it. And when you left or when you went out of the dorm room, did you put it in your wallet? If we were going to go someplace to get something to eat, I'd throw it in my lunch. I didn't need it as I was driving. You don't need your driver's license when you're driving? Okay, that's a weird comment. He doesn't need his driver's license when he's driving, or maybe he's talking about a student ID. But I thought kept his dorm room. Nope, kept it with his other student IDs. I don't know. I'm confused. So apart from either leaving your driver's license on the shelf where these IDs were or in your wallet, either they were on the shelf or in your wallet, was it ever left any other place? Lyle had it occasionally. Why? Did anyone else ever have it occasionally? Not that I recall, no. Now, when you left and you stopped a few minutes later, did you find your wallet? No. Did you find your driver's license? No. What did you do after that? I continued to go towards New York City. And did you ever check again for either your wallet or your driver's license? Yes, I pulled over on Route 1 once for that specific purpose. And when you say when you pulled over on Route 1, for those who are not familiar with the area, is that some kind of route? It's like a toll road from Princeton to New York to New Jersey. It's a toll road from Princeton to New York City. There's only a couple stops, gas stations, rest stops. And when you pulled over, what did you do? I went back through all the crates, but this time a little more thoroughly. And did you find your wallet? No. Beg your pardon? No. Did you find your driver's license? No. What did you do at this point after you were on Route 1 and you couldn't find your driver's license? What was the next thing that you did? I just kept going, hoping I wouldn't get pulled over. And where'd you go? To New York City. This is so repetitive, man. Now, after you got to the New York City, did you stay someplace? Yes. And did you ever unpack? Yes. What happened when you unpacked in terms of your wallet and your driver's license? Well, it had been on my mind since I pulled over the last time, so I kept looking for it. And did you ever unpack all of your things? Yes, as I arrived at my cousin's house, I did. And did you ever find your wallet? No. Did you ever find your driver's license? No. Now, what else was in your wallet, or what was in your wallet? There was a Wells Fargo bank card, maybe some pictures, phone numbers, that's all I recall. And do you know if anyone ever used the Wells? Ms. Abramson says, Your Honor, I'm going to object to this. The court says, I haven't heard the question. Ms. Nahara says, do you know if anyone's ever used the Wells Fargo bank card? I don't know if anyone's ever used it. To your knowledge, it hasn't been used? I don't think it's been used. Did you ever get your driver's license back? No, I didn't. Did you ever give anybody permission to use your driver's license? Yeah. And who is that? Lyle. And that's the person, Lyle Menendez, who is sitting at the end of the counsel table. Yes, it is. Apart from the defendant, Lyle Menendez, did you ever give anyone else permission to use your driver's license? After I got to Princeton, no. Beforehand, I might have. Okay. I'm talking about between April 1st and May of 1989. No. Okay, I'm going to call your attention to what has been previously marked as 58 as well as Exhibit 57, if I may, and I'm going to show you page from Exhibit 57. Now, Mr. Goodreau, if I may have you put that down for just a second, one question I would like to ask you. On August 18th, 1989, where were you living? New York City. And on that date, August 18th, 1989, were you working in New York City? Yes. Where in New York City? I was working at Boxer's Restaurant. And specifically, at some point, did an individual from Beverly Hills Police Department contact you when you were in New York after August 18th, 1989? Yes, but I think I contacted him. So he contacted law enforcement first? I don't remember that. That's interesting. Do you recall talking to an officer or Detective Zoller? Yes. And do you recall being asked whether or not where you were on August 18th, 1989? Yes. And were you working at Boxer's Restaurant at that time? Yes. And did you have work records from Boxer's Restaurant showing you were working at that time? Ms. Abramson says, Objection, Your Honor, calls for hearsay. Documents speak for themselves. The court says, overruled. The witness says, yes, I do. Ms. Nahara continues, now, have you ever been to the Big Five sports store on Convoy in San Diego? Big Five Sporting Goods? No. Have you ever been to a Big Five Sporting Goods at all? Sure. Have you ever been to the one in San Diego? No. On Convey. The court says, what's your answer? No. Ms. Nahara says, now calling your attention to the document before you, and that is Exhibit 57, will you take a look at the information on Exhibit 57, and when you have a chance to look at that, would you let me know? Have you had a chance to look at that? Sure. Now, with regard to the information that appears and calling your attention, you can now look at 57, and I have a large example of 57 that has been marked 58 and identified. Are you Donovan J. Goodrow? I mean, didn't we ask this already? Yes. And as to the information that is written in 2, 3, and 4 of the space of that space, does that appear to be your personal information? Yes, at the time. And with regards to this address, did you ever live at 63 August Street in San Diego? No. And what is your place of birth? Glendora, California. And with regards to a signature that appears on a line in the middle of the document that you're holding and where I'm pointing to right now, did you ever sign the document that you're holding? No, I didn't. And the signature that is on that document and which I am pointing to on Exhibit 58, is that your signature? No. Is that your name? Yes. And with regards to the California driver's license that is listed on with the ID number ending in 791, does that appear to be your California driver's license number? I don't know. I have no idea if it is or not. Okay, if I may show you a copy of your driver's license, see if that refreshes your memory. Ms. Abrams says, Your Honor, I would object. The document speaks for themselves. Overruled. Witness says, yes, it is. Ms. Nahara says, does that appear to be your driver's license number? Yes, it is. And have you ever purchased a shotgun? No, I haven't. Or two shotguns, for that matter? No. Now, calling your attention to another page of Exhibit 57, now calling your attention to page 29 of the exhibit that you have before you, there appears to be a signature of a Donovan Goodreau. Do you see that highlighted on the page before you? Yes. Did you sign that form? No. And is that your signature? No, it's not. Is that your name? Looks like my name. And if I can direct your attention to the next document entitled Federal Firearms Record, and this appears to be page 36, would you take a look at the highlighted portion of that document? Now, once again, is that your signature? No, it's not. And does that appear to be your name? Yes. I have nothing further, Your Honor. The court says, all right, well, yes. Ms. Nahara says, I'm sorry, yes, I do. I just want to check one last thing, Your Honor. I have two photographs which have been marked 128 and 129. May I approach the witness? And showing you, just to make this clear, two photographs that have been previously marked 128 and 129. They appear to be some kind of store. Do you recognize anything in these photographs? I'm not sure what you're asking. Do you recall ever being in this place, which is depicted in photograph number 129? No. Thank you, sir. I have nothing further. Now the court says, all right, before cross-examination, we'll take our morning break. Resume in 20 minutes after the hour. Don't discuss the case with anyone, blah, blah, blah. The jury exited the courtroom and the following proceedings were held. The court says, let me just inquire about the schedule. As far as our schedule this afternoon, are we proceeding with Mr. Eslamania? Mr. Khan says, yes, Your Honor. The court says, okay. A recess was taken. So that was that. Okay. The court says, the following proceedings were held in open court outside the presence of the jury. So they're back in the courtroom. The court says, something you want to discuss. Ms. Nahara says, yes, Your Honor, just briefly. And I've already talked to Mr. Gessler about this. I request leave of the court to reopen just briefly to verify the work records and the signature of Mr. Goodreau, which I have before, but I was not. There was a part of it that I did not understand, and I didn't want to ask him about it until I had a chance to ask him off the stand. The what records? His work records. Is there any objection to that? Mr. Gessler says no. Court says okay. Ms. Nair says thank you. Court says let's get the jury out. Jury comes back. The court says the jury is back. You had some other questions you wanted to ask. Ms. Nahara says, yes, Your Honor, briefly. I have two exhibits, both of which have been shown to defense counsel. One previously marked Exhibit 50, which appears to be records. I'd like to mark them 132. The second I would like to mark 133 was previously 51, and it appears to be signatures. May I approach the witness? The court says yes. Ms. Nahara says, thank you. Now, Mr. Goodreau, showing you what has been marked collectively as 132, would you take a look at these documents that are in the brown envelope and tell me if you recognize them? Yes, I do. And could you tell us what they are? It's a time card with like a worksheet. Now, calling your attention first to the worksheet, does that worksheet appear to go from Thursday to Wednesday? Yes. And what is the end date for this worksheet? I'm going to say the 25th, maybe? And do you base that on the time card that accompanies the worksheet? Yes. And when you testified previously that when you were contacted by Detective Zoller, you went to get work records, is that right? Yes. And are these the original work records from the week previous to August 25th? Yes, they are. And I have another exhibit, if I may. And do these work records reflect that you were working at Boxers on August 18th, 1989? Yes, they do. And I also have what has been marked as 131. Can you look at these pages and tell me what they are? My signature. And that's your signature on several pages? Yes. Thank you, and Your Honor, and thank you, Your Honor. The court says, okay, cross examination. Mr. Gessler is going to be doing the questioning for Lyle's team. So, Mr. Goodreau, I take it that in the spring of 1989, you were a Princeton man. Is that correct? Objection assumes a fact, not an evidence. Court says overruled. Mr. Gessler says, were you a Princeton man in 1989, sir? No. Were you a student at Princeton University during that time? No. So then how was he living there? Like, I'm sure that's against student policy to have anyone else living in your dorm room. So the fact that he kicked him out is not, I don't think, a big deal. Were you ever a student at Princeton University? No. Objection, irrelevant, overruled. I think it is relevant because why is he just hanging out with Lyle? You've testified that you were living at Gauss Hall. Is that how you pronounce it? Sure. What is that? It's a dorm on Princeton campus. On the Princeton campus. Yes. On the grounds of Princeton University? Yes. And is that resided in normally during the school year by students, sir? Yes. And when you were there with Lyle Menendez, were there students living in that hall? Obviously. But you weren't a student. No, I just said that. Could you tell us how you came to be, this is going to be fun. He's going to be combative, I think. Could you tell us how you came to be living in that dormitory during the school year then? Lyle invited me. Lyle invited you? Yes. You met Lyle February 14th, you said? About? About that. In 1989? Yes. And you were working at that time? Yes. Where? At TGI Fridays in Princeton Market Fair in Princeton. That's a restaurant? Yes. A lot of students go there, do they? On weekends? Objection, irrelevant, overruled. The witness says, don't know. Mr. Gessler says, how long did you work at Fridays? Several weeks. During that several weeks, did you see people come in who appeared to be university students? How would I know that? There's a lot of colleges in the area. Was there a lady named Jamie Pisarcik who worked there at that time? Yes, there was. When you got that job at Fridays, you told them that you were going to Princeton University, didn't you? Objection, irrelevant. The witness says, I got the job on the pretense that I was going to be going to school there the next year. Mr. Gessler says, did you tell the same thing to Jamie Pisarcik? Yes. She was working with you there, right? Yes. And you told her that you were going to be going to Princeton University? Yes. Did you have any intention of going to Princeton University? No. It was a good way to get a job, though. Wow. Wow. He says, no, it was a good way to get a job. Insane. Sometimes people, listen, believe them when they tell you things. That's pretty crazy. He's pretty much telling you he doesn't have any morals. He'll do what he needs to get a job. And well, Jamie Pisarcik didn't give you the job, did she? No. She was another lady who was working there as a waitress. Is that right? Yes. Oh, so it's just going to the fact that he's just not credible. He lies to people often. A few years older than you were? I couldn't tell you. You didn't know her that well? I couldn't tell you her age. Did you share an apartment with her? Yes. And you couldn't approximate her age as to whether she was older than you or not? Objection calls for speculation. Overruled. The witness says, it's been a long time. I couldn't tell you how old she is. You were working with her at the Fridays there, and then you shared an apartment with her, right? Yes. There was no romance between you and her, was there? No. So you just were working together and sharing rent? Yes. And at about that time, did she introduce you to Lyle Menendez? Yes, she did. Did she appear to be going with Lyle Menendez at the time? Yes. And had you that means they were dating. That's an old-fashioned way of saying going together. They were dating. And you had how did you meet Lyle Menendez at a dinner someplace? Yes. Tell Lyle Menendez that you were going to attend. Did you tell Lyle Menendez that you were going to attend Princeton University? Yes. Did you discuss plans to go to Princeton University with Lyle? Absolutely. You carried out this pretense, in other words. So the minute he met Lyle, he had this false identity of, I'm going to Princeton, and he never had any intentions of going to Princeton. So it wasn't just to get a job, it was to make friends. And for whatever other reasons, maybe he had other ulterior motives to pretend to be going to Princeton and to get close to these people. Maybe he knew that they had money. I don't know. So you carried out this pretense, in other words. Yes, I did. To everybody around, your employer, to Jamie Pisarcik, to Lyle Menendez, you pretended that you were going to be a Princeton University student. Yes, I did. And you played the role, didn't you? In what way? Well, you never told any of those people that you weren't going to be a student at Princeton, did you? Yes, I did. Who did you tell that to? Lyle Menendez. And when was that? Mid-May. When he kicked you out? Yes. So there you have it. He moved in under the condition of, Lyle thought that this person was going to be a student at his school. And so he probably thought he was like doing this guy a favor who he had just met and, is friendly with his girlfriend, works with his girlfriend, probably trying to get in good with the girlfriend by being friendly with the friend of hers also. So there's that. And from everything that you hear about the brothers, they're just like the nicest people and kind, and Lyle especially. And Erik is kindness with a K. Kindness is cool with a K. Um, so they both are very nice individuals and probably were very generous because it seems even though Jose had many, many, many flaws, he was kind of generous in a way too with his money and like letting people come and stay with them because we've got this luxurious lifestyle and all this. So I kind of feel like he was generous in that sense, but it was more to feed his own ego. You know what I'm saying? But in the sense of the brothers, Eric and Lyle, they really do like I think they really are kind people. All right, so that's when he kicked you out. Yes. So before that, you were talking in February, now mid-February. You didn't tell anybody at that time that this was all a lie or a pretense, did you? All of those three? Any of those three? No. Now, after you lived with Jamie Pisarcik for a while, she kicked you out, didn't she? I left. You left because she told you to leave. No, that's not how I remember it. Did she go through some property of yours and say you're a fraud, you're not going to Princeton? Lyle told me that she went through, and Ms. Nahara says, I'm going to object to anything the defendant told him as hearsay. The court has sustained the answer stricken. Mr. Gessler continues, did you discuss with Lyle at that time whether you were really going to go to Princeton? Ms. Nahara says, objection, vague as to time. The court says, be more specific. Mr. Gessler says, when did you move out from Ms. Pisarcik's apartment about the end of April? Early April. So 1st of April. Late March, early April. When you moved out, did Lyle Menendez have a conversation with you about your intentions to go to Princeton? Yes. And he told you that then that Jamie had said you're a fraud, didn't he? Ms. Nahara says, I'm going to object to anything as hearsay that was said, overruled. The witness says, what was the question? Mr. Gessler says, did Lyle Menendez in this conversation in late March or early April say to you, Jamie said you're a fraud, you're not going to Princeton? Something like that, yes. Something like that, right? And then you said, no, I am, didn't you? I don't remember exactly what I said, but something to that. Something to that effect. Sure. So you tried your best to convince Lyle Menendez that you weren't a fraud, but you really were going to be a Princeton University student, didn't you? Yes. And I take it he believed you. Yes, he did. And in fact, that caused some stress between he and Jamie, as far as you know, didn't it? Objection calls for speculation. Sustained. I would think so. I would think that would cause some stress between them. Mr. Gessler says, at any rate, he seemed to choose you over Jamie at that point. Objection calls for hearsay. Sustained. Mr. Gessler says, is that when he invited you to come share his dorm room? Yes. And you then moved out from Jamie Pisarcik's apartment and moved in with Lyle Menendez? Yes. And at that point, you continued to pretend to Lyle Menendez that you were going to be a Princeton University student, right? Yes. There were other students around in that dorm, weren't there? Yes. Glenn Stevens? Not in that dorm, no. I think it's Glenn Stevens who's the one who lied about sharing a discussion with. It's Glenn Stevens. I was confusing him with Donovan Goodreau. Glenn Stevens is the one who is the reason why Rob Rand had to go take the stand because Glenn Stevens and Lyle Menendez shared a moment where they both talked about instances where they had been essayed as children, and later Glenn Stevens, he said this to Rob Rand, but then later he walked it back and denied it, and that's why Rob Rand had to come on the stand. So I just thought that was interesting. But so Glenn Stevens is another Princeton Princeton man. So Glenn Stevens, not in that dorm, no. Did he come over to that dorm frequently? Occasionally, yes. Hang around with Lyle Menendez? Sure. Hang around with you? Sure. There was a guy named Hayden. Did he hang around you guys? Yes. He was a student there, wasn't he? Yes. And some other people? Yes. Did you pretend to all of them that you were going to be a Princeton University student? Yes, I did. So you kept that ruse up throughout the time that you lived in Lyle Menendez's room until you left, right? Yes. And during that period of time, you've said you lent your license occasionally to Lyle Menendez. Yes. He had permission on those occasions, right? Absolutely. Sorry, I got distracted. There were some people outside and the dog was about to growl, so I had to stop her and sing to her. Distracts her. Anyways, so he had permission on those occasions, right? Absolutely. And he also gave you his student ID card from time to time, didn't he? Yes, he did. And that enabled you to eat on campus, didn't it? So he's pretending that he's going to school there. He gets basically kicked out of Jamie's for her finding out that he's lying to her about going to Princeton. Then he begs Lyle to believe him and take him in his dorm. And then he continues to lie to all these other individuals that he meets through Lyle at Princeton about his student status, which is non existent. And then on top of it, Lyle gives him his card so he can go get money. I mean, go get food. He can go feed himself. This is like, again, Lyle being the nicest and people walking all over him. And now he's testifying against him in his trial, which I just, yeah. People, they've been just, they've had injustices. They've had a lot of injustices in their life and people turning on them and horrible parents and horrible issues with the justice system. It sucks. It makes me angry that people, I'm sure they had a lot of people or in their, you know, around their social circles who would be, ready to pounce on rich people and only be in it for the money. So that's unfortunate on top of everything else that they were also dealing with. Um, all right. So, and that enabled you to eat on campus, didn't it? Yes. And if you took the student ID card, what did they do? Punch it or something and you got your meal? I don't remember exactly what they did. Did you but you didn't have to pay cash for it. No. So you got to eat because you had the student ID and it was part of the going rate there at Princeton and with the tuition and everything. Usually you get like a meal plan with your housing and you get a car. Like when I went to college, we had swipe cards, but that was much later. I couldn't tell you what the going rate was, he said. Okay, but you got free meals by using Lyle Menendez's student ID card, didn't you? Yes. And on many other occasions, Lyle Menendez picked up the tab for lunch or for dinner or things like that, didn't he? Objection, irrelevant, and out of the scope of direct. Overruled. Can you repeat the question? Mr. Gessler says, on other occasions, Lyle Menendez picked up the tab for you for lunch or for meals for things like that, didn't he? We both about did, yes. Didn't you testify before that Lyle Menendez picked up the tab primarily? Not primarily. He picked it up a lot. So picked it up a lot. Sure. You didn't have much money, did you? I had some, but not a lot. Was there a bookstore there at the Princeton University campus? Yes. And that had a travel agency in it. Ms. Nahara says, I'm going to object as irrelevant. The court says, overruled, you can answer the question. The witness says, I don't remember if it was in the bookstore. Mr. Gessler says, well, the bookstore is about a 3-story building there, isn't it? That I recall, yeah. And they have more than books, right? Yes, they have clothes as well. Sweaters? Sure. Sweatsuits? Ms. Nahara says, I'm going to object as relevant. Overruled. Mr. Gessler says, right? And from time to time, yes. And from time to time, Lyle Menendez bought you things there, didn't he? Objection, irrelevant. At the bookstore. Overruled. I couldn't tell you one thing that he bought me from the bookstore aside from maybe a book or two. Why do you need books if you're not going to class? Well, you weren't going to school. What kind of book did he buy you? Exactly my question. Sung to the Art of War is the only one that I can recall. Did he buy you a book on Ogmendino? I don't know if I'm saying that right. He had a book, but I don't remember him giving me one. Did you and him discuss that book a lot? Sure. Objection, irrelevant, sustained. At one point, Lyle Menendez invited you out to his home in California, didn't he? Ms. Nair says, objection, irrelevant, and out of the scope. Overruled. The witness says yes. Did you come? Yes. Fly? Yes. Who paid for it? Lyle. Lyle Menendez did? Or his mom, as I recall. You got a ticket to come out? Yes. And when you got here, did Lyle Menendez say that he really wanted to make a good impression? He wanted you to make a good impression on his father. Ms. Nair says, I'm going to object, irrelevant, and outside the scope of direct. This hurts her case, so she doesn't want it there. Sustained. Mr. Gessler says, did you meet Lyle Menendez's father? Yes. Going to object on the same grounds. Overruled. The answer will stand. Did you meet his mother? Yes. Was that at their house? I'm going to object. Same grounds, Your Honor. Overruled. Yes. Did you have a dinner with them at their house? Going to object. Same grounds. Overruled. Can we have a time frame when this occurred? Mr. Gessler says, do you recall when this trip happened? March. So spring break. 1989. Yes. And that's the one trip that you made out there, wasn't it? To be with Lyle Menendez? Yes. Now, at that time, did you have a dinner in the Menendez household? Yes. His father and mother were present. Yes. His brother was not present, was he? No, he wasn't. And did Lyle rehearse with you that dinner? Ms. Nahara says, I'm going to object as irrelevant and outside the scope. Sustained. Did Lyle's father talk during that dinner? I'm going to object. Same grounds, Your Honor. Sustained. Did you lie to Mrs. Menendez about your plans to attend Princeton University? Ms. Nahara says, Your Honor, I'm going to object to this entire line of questioning. Overruled as to that question. You may answer the question. The witness says yes. Mr. Gessler says, and was that at the dinner table? Yes, it was. And was he asking you about your plans at the time that you lied to him about going to Princeton? I don't remember what he was asking me about. But the whole dinner, you were trying to keep up this facade that you were going to be a Princeton University student, didn't you? Yes. And Lyle was trying to help you, right? In convincing his father? No. Were you still convincing Lyle that you were going to be a Princeton University scholar? It was like a daily thing. He believed that I was, and it stood at that. Oh, so it wasn't like a daily thing. He just believed that he was going to school, and that was that. And he helped you by rehearsing what his father he thought would ask you, didn't he? Yes. Did Mrs. Menendez ask anything at the table? She spoke up once or twice. At the end of the dinner, you were still trying to convince Mr. Menendez that you were going to go to Princeton University, right? I don't remember. Did you feel you succeeded? No. Objection calls for speculation. Overruled. The answer will be stricken. What? Why is it stricken? If it's overruled. That's not, those don't make sense together. Mr. Kessler says, then you went back to Princeton. Yes. After you visited Lyle Menendez? Yes. And did you go back into the dorm again? Yes. And pretend again that you were going to be a Princeton University student? Yes. Kept up your friendship with the other Princeton students there? Yes. And with Lyle Menendez? Yes. What was this fight that happened in May? He found out that I wasn't going to be a matriculating student. And what did he do? Beat you up? No. What do you mean by fight? Well, it was more of a verbal argument than physical. Was there any physical? No. So there was no fight in the sense of anything physical at all, was there? No. There was an argument? Yes. And in the argument, Lyle Menendez said, I found out you're not going to be a student here? Yes. Now, were there other people with Lyle Menendez when he said that? Yes. Who were they? Hayden Rogers, Greg Guest, and Glenn Stevens. And they were all saying, we found out you're not going to be a student here, weren't they? No, they didn't say that. Did they come over and say, Lyle, you've got to kick this guy out? I don't know what they said to him. So how did you find out that you were leaving? Lyle did all the talking. He came in, they followed. And the other people were with him? Sure. And he had received a call from his father earlier that morning. I don't recall. Did you testify at the first trial that Jose had called and said, I'll call back? Ms. Nahara says, I'm going to object. No. The witness says, I don't recall if he called that day. He could have. Mr. Gessler continues. He received a phone call from his mother that morning also. I don't remember either one of them calling. So then, okay. They're probably his parents found out that Donovan Goodreau was living with him and Jose didn't like Donovan and they probably said, you got to kick him out. But I don't know. I don't remember from the first trial. I do remember this fight though. He says, I don't remember one of them calling. So then Lyle Menendez came into the room and said, I found out you're a fraud. No, I don't think that's what he said. So what did he say? I think he said that he found out that I wasn't going to be there next year. He was let down and hurt, didn't know what to believe. He seemed very sad, didn't he? Absolutely. Crying? Yes. So, but you made it out to seem like he was physically violent at first. Like we had this fight. It threw me out. But instead he's crying because he was probably really disappointed and felt betrayed by his friend. And he kind of stood off to the side while the other young men loaded up your possessions. Is that right? He went to get my truck. All right, so Lyle went to get your truck. Mm-hmm. And that left you with these other young men who were still in the room? Yes. And then Lyle brought your truck back, parked it outside the window, did he? Yes. So that you could just load things out the window. Mm-hmm. Is that yes? Yes, sorry. Mr. Gessler says, and the loading that was done by these other young men, Glenn Stevens, Hayden Rogers? I can't remember exactly who helped. I'm pretty sure it was them. And Lyle was standing over in the corner. I don't think he was in the room, no. So he left the room during that period of time. He was either outside the window and Hayden said to him, do you want to go through his stuff and make sure he's not stealing anything? And I remember that's the only way I remember he was anywhere near there. Hayden said, let's make sure he's not stealing anything. Is that it? Something to that effect, yeah. And Lyle was saying, gosh, I don't know. I don't know anything I can believe about you now. Yes. I mean, that's good for the defense. Like, Lyle can't trust you. This guy's not trustworthy. The friends, he's been lying to everybody. Ms. Nahara says, object to anything that was said as hearsay. The court says, overruled. Mr. Gessler says, and he was saying, you fooled me. You took advantage of me, of being a student, and now I don't know what I can believe. Things like that, wasn't it? Yes. And that was the circumstances under which you left, right? Yes, it was. So when you said earlier that there was a fight, that's when you were referring to, isn't it? Yes. That Lyle found out that you'd been lying to him, and in essence, he kicked you out, along with the other guys. Yes. Was there a computer in the room there? Yes. Apple? Yes. I'm going to object to irrelevant, overruled. And were you with Lyle Menendez when he purchased that Apple computer? Yes, I was. Objection, withdrawn. Mr. Gessler says, were you the one who used it? Objection, irrelevant. Overruled. The witness says, we both used it. He didn't know how, did he? He tried. He was a hacker, right? What? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Very inefficient at it. He wasn't very good at it, no. He was not a hacker. So your license in your wallet was normally just on a shelf in the room there. Yes. And you noticed it was missing 5 minutes after you left the dorm. Yes. So you're still in downtown Princeton by that time, weren't you? No, I was somewhere on campus. Couldn't have been too far. So I take it you turned around to go back and get it? No. Hmm. Did you find out that you had a sweater of Lyle Menendez's during this journey? After I arrived in New York, I realized I had a sweater. So you called him back to return the sweater, did you? No. Is that why you didn't call him back to try to get your license because you had a sweater? No, I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question? Is the reason that you didn't call back to find out about where your license was because you knew that you had Lyle Menendez's sweater? No, he stole my bike, so I. He stole your bike? Yes. When did that happen? Happened a couple days before I left. And where was your bike when Lyle stole it? Where was it? It was either in the dorm or just outside the dorm room. And you saw Lyle take it? No. Did you ever did you ever see your bike again? No. Did you ever see Lyle with your bike? No. So Lyle Menendez kept the door to that room open, didn't he? Yes, he did. So people came and borrowed things all the time, didn't they? Absolutely. Borrowed his clothes, right? See what I mean? He's generous and just, easy breezy. Used the computer. Yes. Now, when you left, did you feel that Lyle was suspicious you'd stolen $400 from him? Can you repeat that question? When you left, did you feel that Lyle suspected you had stolen $400 from him? Miss Nahara says, I'm going to object. That assumes a fact, not an evidence. Overruled. Witness says no. Did you tell Bob Rand that that's what you felt? I don't recall. You don't know Bob Rand? You don't know, or you know Bob Rand, don't you? Sorry. Yes. You've given him numerous interviews from time to time. Yes. May I have a moment, Your Honor? The court says yes. Mr. Gessler says, by the way, when you left, you didn't tell Lyle Menendez where you were going, did you? No, I didn't. Didn't give him a forwarding address. In other words, you didn't say, hey, I'm going to live on 3rd Street in New York or 60th Street or wherever you went. No, I didn't. Nothing further. So Ms. Abramson is going to do a very brief cross-examination. Mr. Goodreau, the trip that you took to California was during the spring break of 1989? Yes. And you've stated that at the dinner that you had at the Menendez home, you did not see Erik Menendez, correct? Yes. Was the dinner the first night that you were here in California? With the family? Yes. Was it the first night that you were here in California on that trip at all? I would say I don't remember if it was the first or the second night. Well, did you stay at the Menendez home the night of the dinner? Yes. Did you stay at the Menendez home the night before the dinner? I don't remember if the dinner was the first night or the second night. So did you see Erik Menendez at all during that trip to California? Yes. Did you see him earlier on the day of the dinner? If the dinner was the first night, then I had just arrived and I don't think I would have met him. So is that a no? That's, I don't know. Did you ever see him again after the first trip that you saw him during that trip? No. After the first time that you saw him during that trip, sorry. No. Objection, irrelevant, overruled. Did Erik Menendez leave the day after you first saw him to go play in a tennis court back east? Objection, no foundation, sustained. Were you told that by both Mr. that all three, Mr. Menendez, Mrs. Menendez, and Eric were leaving for a tennis tournament? Objection calls for hearsay. Sustained. Did they disappear, the three of them, the day after the dinner? Yes. And you never saw any of those three people again during the trip? During my trip to California? Right. No. And they were not at the Menendez home for any of those days. After? No. And without indicating what it was, were you told where they were going? Yes. And who told you? Lyle. And did you hear any of them, Mr., Mrs., or Eric Menendez, discuss where they were going? Objection. I'm going to object. Call for hearsay. You can answer that yes or no. Witness says yes. And who did you hear discussing it? All I can remember is Lyle maybe discussing it. I asked you about his parents and his brother. Did you hear any of them say we're going here or we're going there or, goodbye, nice meeting you or not nice meeting you, whatever the case was? Not that I recall. But in any event, the three of them disappeared and you didn't see them again. On that trip, no. Did you ever see any of them in California on any other trip? No. Then why clarify it? Did you ever see Eric Menendez again until you saw him in court? No. The computer that you were working on in Lyle Menendez's dorm room was an Apple brand computer, correct? Yes. And do you know the difference between an Apple type computer and an IBM type computer? Vaguely. They are different, correct? Yes. They work differently? I don't know. Different software. Have you ever tried to work an IBM type computer? Yes. Is it harder to work than an Apple? I couldn't tell you. You don't know. The one I used wasn't. The IBM you used? Yes. When did you use an IBM? IBM every day at work. Now? Yes. Where are you working now? I have a gym. In New York? Yes. Were you working at a gym in New York when you testified here last time? Yes. What gym was that? Objection, irrelevant, sustained. Abramson says, and the Apple computer that Lyle had, he purchased at the student store, correct? Yes. And you were present when he showed that computer to his father in New Jersey? Yes. It was at his Aunt Terry's house? Yes. And you went to his Aunt Terry's house on numerous occasions with him, didn't you? Yes. And you and Lyle Menendez, during this period of time, were best friends, weren't you? Yes. You spoke to each other all of the time? Yes. And you pretended with him to reveal your truest feelings, did you not? Objection, irrelevant, overruled. You can answer the question. The witness says, aside from the Princeton lie, there were no others. But he didn't know. He didn't know that when he discovered the Princeton lie, did he? Objection calls for speculation as to what he would know. Sorry, dog's barking. So the court says sustained. The answer is stricken. Ms. Abramson continues. In fact, part of the hurt in this conversation with you the day that he asked you to leave was that he told you he didn't know what to believe, whether the feelings you had conveyed were real, whether the friendship you had conveyed was real, since you had been lying to him, correct? Ms. Nahara says, I'm going to object as to that, calling for speculation, sustained. That's a speculation if that's what he said. Ms. Abrahamson says, didn't he say those things to you? Exactly. Yes. And the last image you had of Lyle Menendez as you drove away in your truck was him standing dejectedly with his hands in his pocket looking down. I couldn't say he was dejected, but he looked very upset. With his hands in his pocket looking after you. Yes. As you drove away. Yes. Now, you've testified that you drove away off the campus. First, you discovered your license was missing on campus. Is that right? I thought maybe it might still be someplace in the truck. Did you have a New Jersey license? No. Did you have a New York license? No. Was it legal to drive in New Jersey with a California license? I couldn't tell you. I'm sure it was. You're sure it was. You don't believe when you move to a state you're supposed to get a license from that state? I'm going to object as argumentative, Your Honor. Overruled. I think if you're there for more than a certain amount of time, says the witness. Well, how long were you living in New Jersey? Several months. How many months? Several. From February till May. So you moved to New Jersey in February? Yes. So you didn't stay with Jamie Pisarcik for very long. From California? Yes. What was the expiration date of your California license? I don't know. And you had neither a New Jersey nor a New York license? No. And after you discovered that your California license was gone, what did you do to get a driver's license? I didn't. I got a New York state ID. So you never got a driver's license in New York? No. Did you drive? No. You never drove. I did for maybe the first month. And then you stopped driving? Yes. And to this date, you don't drive? I own a Jeep I haven't seen in 3 years. The question was not do you own a Jeep that you haven't seen in 3 years, but do you drive? Ms. Nahara says objection. The court says overruled. There's nothing to object to. That was a perfectly legit question. Ms. Abramson said, you never drive back east? No, never. And you can't because you don't have a license. I can't because I don't have a license. Now, you said that the second thing you did in order to determine if your license was around was you pulled over on Route 1. Is that correct? Yes. Now, you've described Route 1 as only 2 places where you can pull over. No, you can pull over all the way if you want. I thought this was your testimony earlier today. There were rest stops and gas stations. Rest stops and gas stations? Yes. On Route 1? There's also exits as well. Exits. Route 1 is what? It's a highway. So it's a highway where you have to get exits to get off to get to gas stations. I don't know what you're asking. I want you to describe what Route 1 is. It's a highway. I'm not very familiar with it now. You said it was a toll road. Seemed like a toll road because you pay a toll when you got off. So you pay a toll and you have to exit only where the highway lets you off. Is that what you're saying? Yes. Objection, irrelevant, overruled. In fact, Mr. Goodreau, Route 1 is a public street that has businesses, hotels, restaurants, all kinds of running all the way from Princeton to Newark Airport, isn't it? I don't know. You don't know, but you said you were on it. I know that the Princeton Market Fair is on Route 1, but as you get closer to New York, I didn't know that there were other exits. It's not exits at all. Route 1 isn't even a toll road. It's just a street. Ms. Nahara says I'm going to object as argumentative. Sustained. Ms. Abramson says, do you know what Route 1 is? Do you know that Route 1 is just a street? No. Do you know where the Hyatt is right outside of Princeton? No. Do you know where Forrestal Center is? Objection, irrelevant, overruled. The witness says no. In fact, you don't know the difference between Route 1, a public street, and the New Jersey State Turnpike, do you? No, I don't. The New Jersey State Turnpike is a toll road. Do you know that? No, I don't. I have nothing further. Any redirect? Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Nahara asks, Mr. Goodreau, you testified on cross-examination that basically you pretended to everyone that you knew in Princeton that you were going to be a student there. Is that right? Yes. Now, while you were there, you didn't pretend to have a driver's license, did you? No, I had one. And you had an officially issued by the state of California driver's license. Is that right? Yes. And you had that driver's license. Did you have that driver's license when you moved in with Lyle Menendez? Yes. And did you have that driver's license in May of 1989? Early May. When was the last time you saw that driver's license in May of 1989? First week in May. And you described what you described as a fight between you and Lyle Menendez when you moved out. Is that right? Yes. After that fight with Lyle Menendez, did you ever see your driver's license again? No. And you never took it to San Diego to buy shotguns. Is that right? No, I never did. Thank you. I have nothing further. The court asks anything else, and neither of them do. The court says, thank you. You may step down. Miss Abramson says, we don't want this witness excused, Your Honor. We're going to recall him. So in their case in chief, they're going to call him. The court says you're excused, subject to being recalled. Ms. Abramson says, may we approach briefly about contact information on this witness? The court says, why don't you, if you want to go out in the hall and speak with him for a moment, you can do that. Ms. Abramson says, I'll be happy to do that. The court says you can go out in the hall and speak to counsel. What's your next witness? Mr. Khan says, Mr. Wenskoski, there's no W, so I want to say Wenskoski. Wenskoski. May I call him? Says Mr. Khan. So we're going to switch here. We've got, instead of Carol, we've got Mr. Khan. And I think Mr. Gessler and Leslie are also still doing the questioning. So Mr. Khan is going to question Mr. Wenskowski. It's very hard to say. Sorry. We'll do my best. All right, so Mr. Khan says apparently he's downstairs in the office. Could we take 5 minutes recess? The court says we'll take a short break, and when the witness comes back, we'll have you out. Short recess. The court says someone had something they wanted to discuss before the jury comes in. Ms. Nahara says before we go into this hearing, this is really Mr. Khan's witness. We need him. Okay, so they're going to go into a hearing apparently. Ms. Abramson says, just to remind the court, it has to do with a telephone conversation that Mr. Wenskowski claimed he overheard Lyle make to his brother, which I objected to, which the people said they were not going to get into. But Mr. Gessler said he might want to get into one of those triangles. The court says, it doesn't have to be discussed until we get on cross-examination. Is that right? Ms. Abramson says, I want to make sure Mr. Khan is not trying to get into it. I haven't checked with him on this issue recently. Mr. Gessler says they had said they're not going to proffer it, but the problem is if they use the statement from the last trial, which they did proffer regarding, let me see if I have it, it's concerning the will, computer, and having anything to do about that. Then cross-examination does get important as to the new statement because it's a further embellishment. I think that's the problem. The prosecution was not on its own going to go into the new statement of the phone calls that was supposedly made to Erik, but they were going to go into what they testified to at the last trial concerning had to fly to LA, something about a will on a computer, and returned and said everything was fine. Rich. That was a quote. The court says, right. And then you felt that you would be entitled to cross-examine him about some new statements. Mr. Gessler says, other statements concerning his knowledge about a will being in a computer. Yes, Your Honor, which is the new statement that he made. To David Kahn and to Carol Nahara, which concerns this is a statement he made August 28th, 1994. And at that time, he said basically, Richard, meaning the witness, then heard Lyle say, look in the yellow pages, it's only a will in the computer. Do you want me to come out there and do it? Which is a brand new wrinkle on the evolving knowledge about a will in a computer. Ms. Abramson says, and it was preceded, Your Honor, with the statement by the witness that quote was preceded by a statement by the witness that then, that when he and Lyle Menendez were leaving and going to dinner from the Hyatt one night, Lyle stopped to use the phone in the lobby, quote, to call his brother. Richard then heard Lyle say the quote that Mr. Gessler just read. Now, let me just say, I know the court has an excellent memory, and the witness is in the courtroom. We'd ask that he'd wait in the lobby in the hallway. Mr. Wenskoski exits the courtroom. Ms. Abramson says, returning to the court's excellent memory, I'm sure the court recalls that Lyle Menendez flew to California before Erik Menendez did. Based on the evidence at the last trial, Lyle Menendez took a flight at 6 in the morning, and Eric Menendez, there was some uncertainty, but the people's version is that Eric Menendez took a flight at about 11 in the morning on the same day. So there is some way that Lyle could have been calling his brother with the implication there that he was out there somewhere. You want me to come out there and do it? The implication being that Eric is in California when we know Lyle got there first, not Eric. So the whole thing is a fraudulent statement. And for us to get into this tug of war over whether Eric was here or Eric was there gets into an undue consumption of time, complicating and confusing issues, innumerable witnesses that would have to be called to try to prove where Eric was and when he went to California. And so we believe that under no circumstances should this statement and also all the obvious Aranda implications. This is a statement that purports to make Eric a conspirator in Lyle Menendez's efforts to erase the computer, which, as this court knows, Lyle flew out by himself, contacted Mr. Whitkin, as we've heard. Eric was out later, meets other computer people. Eric is surprised when those other computer people tell him that the computer has been erased, etc., etc. It's just an immense complexity to keep a fraudulent impression from coming in, and I don't care who offers it, we object. The court says, what's the people's position? Mr. Khan says, we're not offering the statement, Your Honor. The court says, you're not offering any statement regarding Lyle Menendez coming to California or talking to somebody about a computer. Mr. Khan says, no conversation with anyone on the telephone. The witness will testify that Lyle Menendez indicated that he was going to go to California. Court says, but the phone call won't be referred to? No. Mr. Gessler says the problem is the phone call by itself being referred to, it's to the people's advantage that phone call not be referred to because it makes the witness look like he's making this thing up as he goes. The damage is the statement talking about a will in a computer. The court says, well, were you referring to that in your testimony of this witness? Mr. Khan says, no, I will not be asking him about a will. Ms. Abramson says, anything having, Mr. Gessler says, what about a computer? Mr. Khan says, not about a computer either, just a flight to California. Mr. Gessler says, okay, I think I can live with that. Ms. Abramson says, solves the problem. The court says, all right. Ms. Abramson says, how remarkable, because they actually agreed on something. Ms. Nair says, we try. The court says, anything else before the witness testifies? Ms. Abramson says, I would ask the court, it's my understanding, having to piece together all the different proffers, etc., that none of this witness testimony is admissible against my client. The court says the limiting instructions would be given as to all the testimony of this witness relating to spending and activities of Lyle Menendez in the East. Ms. Abramson says that's all there is. The court says, if that is all, any other conversations we had with Lyle Menendez, therefore the entirety of the witness testimony, at least at this stage of this testimony, assuming he doesn't come back and the area is opened up for some other examination, would be limited to Lyle Menendez. Okay, let's get the witness in. Perhaps you can remind him of the area that you won't go into before he comes in, and then we'll have the jury out. Mr. Gessler says, just a reminder, since he is talking to the witness, to your Honor, there are also other things at the last trial that were ruled irrelevant, such as the bounce check, which was hearsay, and insufficient evidence that Lyle Menendez knew about the $5 million policy being enforced on August 20th. Those things also were ruled irrelevant and beyond this witness's personal knowledge. So the court says, did you intend to go into those? Mr. Khan says, no, Your Honor. The court says, okay. Okay, let's get the jury out, please. The jury entered the courtroom and the following proceedings were held. People call Richard Wenskoski. All right, so Mr. Khan asks Richard Wenskoski, nope, he's sworn in, sorry. He was sworn in, and then what is the court says And the testimony of this witness, ladies and gentlemen, is received only to the defendant Lyle Menendez and should be considered by you only in the case involving People versus Lyle Menendez. So this was the jury instruction that he was saying he was going to give. All right, Mr. Khan says thank you. Direct examination begins. Mr. Khan says, Mr. Wenskoski, can you tell us what your occupation is? I'm a director of security for a food service company in New Jersey. And how long have you held that position? Approximately 5 years. And can you tell us what your occupation was back in August of 1989? I was a manager of a private investigation company. And did you have that occupation through September of 1989? That's correct. And can you tell us what your company that you worked for back in August and September of 1989 was? D.B. Kelly Associates. And as of 1989, can you tell us how long you held that position? Approximately a year. How long? A year. What did you do before that? I was a manager of another investigation company in New Jersey for approximately 3 years. And before that, I was a police officer for 18 years. Now, what was your title during the time that you worked for D.B. Kelly? Manager of Investigations. And what did your duties consist of? Managing the investigators, going on assignments with them, overseeing operations within the office. And what type of duties did the company D.B. Kelly perform? We performed private investigations, security guard service, bodyguard services. And in August of 1989, were you hired by the defendant Lyle Menendez? Yes, sir. Do you see the defendant in the courtroom today? Yes, sir. Would you point him out, please? He's the gentleman sitting with the blue and white striped shirt and red tie. The court says he's referring to Lyle Menendez at counsel table. Mr. Khan says, and can you tell us, do you recall the date that you began or the date of your employment with him? I believe it was around August the 28th. And how long did you continue to work for Lyle Menendez? Into the early part of September, around September 4th. And during that time period, do you ever meet Erik Menendez? No, sir. Now, when you were first hired by Lyle Menendez, did you have a conversation with him concerning the type of services that he wanted from your company? Yes, sir. And what type of services would that include? He requested a bodyguard for protection. And that bodyguard service, would that be 24-hour round-the-clock bodyguard? Yes, sir. Is that something you would perform alone or would you perform in conjunction with a partner? In conjunction with a partner. And who was your partner at that time? John Aguero. And did you, in fact, provide a 24-hour bodyguard service to Lyle Menendez for that time period of August the 28th through September the 4th? Yes, sir. And did John Aguero, your partner, assist you in that performance? Yes, he did. Now, was there any time period during those dates when you were actually not on duty providing this service to the defendant, Lyle Menendez? Yes, sir. It was approximately a day and a half. And during that day and a half time, what happened? I went home. It was my daughter's birthday. And did anyone else fill in for your presence? Yes, sir. And who was filled in for you? Dennis Kelly, president of the company. Is that DB Kelly? Yes, sir. And now when you were first employed by Lyle Menendez, what did he indicate was the reason that why he wanted a bodyguard? He told me that his parents' lives were taken in their home in Beverly Hills with a shotgun while they were watching TV. And did he tell you who he thought was responsible for that? Yes, sir. And who did he say was responsible? He believed it was either the Colombia cartel or the mob, meaning the mafia. And do you recall anything that he said concerning that homicide or his concern in regard to that homicide? Yes, he feared that his life was in jeopardy, that I believe he told me it was almost like a message sent, and he was also worried about his brother in California. Uh-huh. And he said that the homicide was a message that was sent by someone? Yes. And did he indicate to you anything concerning whether or not his brother was taking this message seriously? Ms. Abramson says, I'm going to object to that, Your Honor. The court says sustained. Mr. Khan continues, now, as part of your duties for D.B. Kelly, did you commonly carry a firearm? Yes, sir. And what type of firearm did you carry? A Browning 9mm. Did you carry that gun during the time that you provided security services for Lyle Menendez? Yes, sir. And your partner, John Aguero, was he also armed? Yes, sir. And did he carry the gun during the time that he provided security services for Lyle Menendez? Yes, sir. Now, in addition to carrying a gun, did you take any special security precautions for this particular assignment? Yes, sir. What special security precautions did you take to protect the life of Lyle Menendez? We purchased bulletproof vests, and we also carried a shotgun and a crash car vehicle. Now, why was it that you took these special security precautions? Because of the type of the crime that was committed out here in California, and Lyle led us to believe that basically the same thing was going to happen to him. Uh-huh. And can you tell us what a crash car is? That's a vehicle we had behind the limousine that Lyle would ride in case anything happened to the limo or an attack was put on the limousine, we had another vehicle to get him out of the area. So would either you or your partner be driving the limousine escorting Lyle Menendez? No, sir. It was a limousine driver driving the limousine. And yourself and your partner, Mr. Aguero, where would you and he be when you were transporting Lyle Menendez somewhere? In the rear vehicle, the crash vehicle. So Lyle Menendez would be driving alone with his limousine driver or anyone else that he wanted to ride with him, and it would be you and your partner in the crash car following behind. That's correct. And where was it that you were told to transport Lyle Menendez during this period between August the 28th through September the 4th? To different locations in New Jersey and into New York City. And do you recall any specific locations that you took him to during this time period? We went shopping for clothes, vehicles, homes, and then we went to the U.S. Open in New York, tennis. And do you recall seeing any of Lyle Menendez's friends during this time period that you were working with him? Yes, sir. And who did you see during this time period? Glenn Stevens and the girl he was dating. I don't remember her first name. Okay, did you ever take him during the time that you were transporting him to the gym or to work out? Yes, sir. And during the time that Lyle Menendez would work out at the gym, where would you or your partner be? Standing right outside the door in suits. Now, during this time period that you were working with Lyle Menendez, were there any conversations about additional security precautions that could be taken in regard to the type of limousine that he would be traveling in? Yes, he wanted me to look into purchasing a bulletproof limousine for him. To me, this just goes to show that like money was not an issue, and whenever you needed something, you just asked, and it got done for you in this family because Jose had that type of money. He had money where you could just get a bulletproof limousine if you wanted one. So, and it just goes to show that like money was not an object. It wasn't a thing. It wasn't the motive in any regard. And did you, in fact, do any research or investigation into the possibility of purchasing a bulletproof limousine? Yes. I passed that information on to Dennis Kelly, and in return, he was looking into the purchase of such a vehicle. Was there discussion with Lyle Menendez concerning the cost of purchasing a bulletproof limousine to protect him from the mafia? Yes. We explained to him it would be quite expensive, but he didn't seem to care. Now, did it appear to you that Lyle Menendez was taking the security precautions that you were providing for him seriously? No, sir. And why is that? At different times, he would jump out of the vehicle and just run into stores for shopping without us being in the immediate area. He would go off. A couple of times when we were at the Hyatt, he went downstairs by himself, not even telling us where he was going. He sounds like a normal kid to me that would disobey parents whenever and just like go off and do his own thing. That doesn't, this isn't alarming to me. He left to go to the downstairs of the Hyatt by himself. Big deal. Uh-huh. And did you admonish him against taking that type of action? In fact, his life was in jeopardy? Yes, sir. And what did you tell him in that regard? I told him to listen to our instructions concerning our activities outside the immediate room where we were staying, and he agreed but didn't follow through. And during the time period that you were guarding him, can you tell us where it was that Lyle Menendez stayed or resided at? The Princeton Hyatt in Princeton, New Jersey. And did you feel that that would be a good place for him to stay during this time period? No, sir. It was quite open. There was a lot of activity in and out of the lobby. It's a well-known motel in the area. And did you admonish Lyle Menendez that wasn't a good place to stay as far as security reasons are concerned? Yes. And what was his response to that admonition? He said, "This place is fine for now." Now, you indicated that you took Lyle Menendez shopping. Can you tell us where it was that he went shopping? In the Princeton area, right off Route 1, there's a shopping center. Uh-huh. During that time period, did you see him shop for a vehicle? Yes, sir. Your Honor, I have in my hand photograph number 104 at this time. It has already been marked. I'd like to show you or show it to the witness. The court says yes. Mr. Conso, showing you 104. Can you tell us if you recognize the vehicle depicted in that photograph? Yes. Can you tell us where it was that you saw that vehicle previously? At the dealership on Route 1 in Princeton, New Jersey. Okay. And can you tell us about the occasion in which you saw this vehicle? We went there to look at the vehicle with Lyle and to test drive that vehicle. And did Lyle Menendez, in fact, test drive that vehicle in your presence? Yes, sir. Were you inside the car with him? Yes, sir. I was seated in the back. And were you present with Mr. Menendez purchase that vehicle? No, sir. Okay. In addition to shopping for that vehicle, you indicated that Lyle Menendez also purchased clothing. Yes, sir. And can you tell us where it was that he purchased or that he made the purchases of the clothing? I believe it's called the Forestal Shopping Center in Princeton. Okay. And can you tell us about those occasions in which you observed him to purchase clothing? He purchased at one time approximately $1,000 worth of shoes, $3,000 worth of clothing, suits and ties, undergarments. And can you tell us how many occasions you were with him when he purchased clothing involving such expenditures? At least 3 to 4 times. Also, sporting equipment, tennis. And you also indicated that you were with him looking at some residences. Is that correct? Yes, sir. I'd like to show you what has previously been marked as 102 and 103 for identification. Do you recognize the residences that are depicted in those photographs? Yes. And can you tell us what it is that you see before you? This is a patio home in the Princeton area. And in the same location, or basically the same area, this is a townhouse, they call them now. So the patio home is the one I'm putting up on the board, and that is 102 for identification. And what did you refer to this? A townhouse. A townhouse. You indicated is depicted in 103, and I'm putting that up on the board at this time. And were you with him when you looked at those residences? Yes, sir. And did you walk through that complex with him looking at the property there? Yes, sir. Now, I'd like to direct your attention to the date of August the 31st. Do you recall the defendant Lyle Menendez going somewhere on that date? Yes, sir. And where did he indicate to you that he was going to go? Back to California. Okay, and did you transport him somewhere on August the 31st of 1989? Yes, sir. Where did you take him? Newark International Airport. And after you dropped him off, did you later pick him up? Yes. At Newark International Airport? Yes. When was it that you picked him up? The following day. Now, during the time that you were guarding Lyle Menendez from the mafia at Princeton Hyatt, did he ever make any statements to you or have any questions for you concerning ballistics? Yes, sir. Had you told him that you had previously been a police officer for 18 years? Yes, sir. And what questions did he have of you with regards to ballistics? Whether or not you can get ballistics off the pistol I was carrying, and can you get ballistics off a shotgun? Now, what do you understand that meant? Get ballistics off of a gun. When a weapon is fired, a weapon that was rifling in the bearings, such as the pistol and or the rifle, um, and or a rifle, when the bullet comes out, it makes markings on the bullet, and you can recover that bullet. You can match it to the barrel that or the weapon that it is fired from. And that is when you that is what you understand by the term getting ballistics. Yes, sir. So when he asked you, "Can you get ballistics from a pistol?" How did you respond to that question? I told him you can. Okay, and then what else did he ask you about at that time? He then asked me if you can get ballistics from a shotgun, and I told him no. A shotgun is smooth bore. There's no rifling on a shotgun. Okay. Now you indicated that your employment for Lyle Menendez was terminated approximately September the 4th. Is that correct? Yes. And can you tell us how that termination came about? Lyle informed me that his uncle went to or had a meeting in New York City with some mob figures, he stated, and that his life was no longer in jeopardy. Uh-huh. Did he make any mention about a deal? Yes, sir. And what did he say in that regard? He said his uncle had made a deal with these people and his brother and him are now safe. Okay, so a couple of more questions, Mr. Wenskoski. The last time you were here, did you testify previously in regard to this matter? Yes. When you were here in California, do you recall being asked the question about whether you had gone with Detective Zoller to a topless bar here in Los Angeles? Yes. Okay, do you recall what your answer was to that question? Yes. And how did you respond? I responded that we didn't. Okay, and what did you understand a topless bar to mean? Like the topless bars that are in New Jersey. That's what I was thinking of. And how would the topless bars be different in New Jersey from, did you in fact go to topless bars in Los Angeles? Yes. And how was that different from the bars that you had seen in New Jersey, which are referred to as topless bars? The topless bars, as we call them in New Jersey, are a little more sleazier. This was more like burlesque show that we went to. One more question. As far as the demeanor of Lyle Menendez during the time that you were guarding him, protecting him from the mafia, can you tell us what his demeanor was like during that time period? He seemed carefree. I never seen him cry over the parents or we never talked about it. He wasn't despondent or anything. Didn't show any emotions of being upset. He acted normal and jovial. Thank you. I have no further questions. Ms. Amerson says, "Excuse me, may I have a moment?" The court says, "Yes." Mr. Gessler is going to go up first. So, Mr. Gessler for Lyle says, "Good morning, Mr. Wenskoski." Good morning, sir. "You began your service with Lyle Menendez on August 28th. Yes, sir. And that was about 6 in the evening, wasn't it? Yes, sir. And where was your service set up? What city were you in? I was in Somerset, New Jersey. And how far is that from Princeton? Approximately 45 minutes to an hour. So you drove down to or up to Princeton. Are you north or south of Princeton in Somerset? It's almost diagonally across the state. All right, so you drove over to Princeton. Yes, sir. And met Lyle at 6 in the evening. Yes, sir. And that's when you went over to the Hyatt that you talked about here. No, we met him at the Nassau Inn. And then did you go over to the Hyatt from there? Yes, sir. and you spent the night there at the Hyatt. Yes, sir. Now, originally, these arrangements as to what you were to do, those were reported to you by your boss, D.B. Kelly, weren't they? Yes. He told you what this was, in his opinion, all about. That you were to provide bodyguard services for Lyle Menendez while he was in the area. Yes, sir. And he gave you his impression as to what you were supposed to do? No. Did DB Kelly tell you what you should have that you should have a crash car? That was a decision made in the office, yes, sir. By DB Kelly and you? Yes. So Lyle Menendez was not present when that decision was made, was he? No, sir. And the crash car, that's a car that followed the limousine. Was that the way that it was set up? Yes, sir. So the limousine would go wherever it was with Lyle Menendez in it with the driver, and then you would follow in the crash car. Yes, sir. And that was a manner of providing some security there. Yes. So when you got down to meet Lyle Menendez, you explained to him that the security provisions wouldn't be, you explained to him what the security provisions would be, didn't you? Yes. And you told him that there would be a crash car with you in it, in following the limo? With you in it. My God, I'm stuttering now. It's been a while. And you told him there would be a crash car with you in it following the limo. Yes. And you discussed with him what DB Kelly told you, that is, why you were providing him protection, that you were going to protect him while he was there? Yes, sir. And how you were going to do it? Yes, sir. And basically, it's fair to say he was not a good subject for this. No, sir. He'd jump out of the car, go wherever he was going. Yes, sir. Or he would leave a place wherever he was and get in the car instead of having to go out first and see if anybody was there. He only did that a couple of times. That's correct. Did you have a radio contact between the car, the limo Lyle was in, and your crash car? We had a telephone inside the vehicle. And was there an occasion when the driver of the car that Lyle Menendez was in called you and said, I think the FBI's following us? No, sir. The driver made that statement to me in front of Lyle's uncle. In front of what? The uncle's house. Oh, but this was a conversation between you and the driver and Lyle in which the FBI thing came up? I don't think Lyle was there. We were waiting for Lyle outside the residence, and that's when the limo driver said that to me. And you informed Lyle of that? I believe I did, yes. Now, what was the day and a half that you took off for your daughter's birthday? Well, it was a Sunday, I believe, because my daughter's birthday is September the 4th, and I believe it was a Wednesday, so we had the family over on that previous Sunday. All right, at any rate, whatever September 4th was, Sunday was the day that you remember celebrating her birthday. Yes. We don't have a calendar from that year, do we, Your Honor? The court says, I'm sure we have it somewhere. I don't know if we have it right here available. Perhaps counsel does. Ms. Abramson says, it's the same as this year. It's the same as this year, Mr. Gessler. 89 and 95 is the same. Mr. Gessler says, are they? Only the leap year between now and then? That's what I'm informed, says Ms. Abramson. And Mr. Gessler says, Your Honor, it does appear that the 95 calendar is the same because we do know that August 20th was Sunday, and it appears that August 20th is a Sunday this year also. The court says, all right. Mr. Gessler says, assuming then, Mr. Wenskoski, that Monday was September 4th, then you would have taken September 3rd to celebrate your daughter's birthday. That's a 1995 calendar. I'm not sure, sir. So we've determined that the 95 calendar is the same as the 89. Okay. And assuming that as a fact that September 4th was a Monday and September 3rd was a Sunday, would it be September 3rd that you took off for your daughter? Yes, sir. And what was the half day? Was it the 2nd, the Saturday before that? Saturday before, yes. So from, say, noon Saturday until Monday morning, the 4th, you were off. Yes, sir. And it was on the 4th that your services were terminated. I believe it was the Wednesday our services were terminated, but yes, on the 4th. On the 4th? Yes. And that was about 10 in the morning? I don't recall exactly the time. No, sir. Do you recall that you were somewhere in the vicinity of his uncle's house when he said, "We don't need you any longer"? No, sir, I don't remember that. So you don't remember where this was? No, sir. You had become fairly friendly with Lyle Menendez at the time that he let you go, hadn't you? Yes, sir. In fact, he had told you that he thought of you as a father figure. Yes, sir. And you tried to fill that role during this period of time as well as being his protector, didn't you? Not really, sir, no. You tried to be nice to him, didn't you? Oh, of course. You tried to be gentle to him? Yes, sir. You tried to give him guidance? Yes. He sought your advice on things? Yes. You answered them when he sought your advice? Yes, sir. And he told you at dinner how much he appreciated your friendship and all you've done for him, didn't he? Yes, he did. That was all before he came up with this reason to let you go. Yes, sir. And he had seemed sincere in those statements to you, didn't he? Yes, he did. Now, let's see, he left to go to Los Angeles. I think you said August 31st. Yes, sir. What time of day did he leave? In the afternoon. Do you remember if it was early afternoon, late afternoon? I don't remember, sir. What time did he come back the next day? It was the morning hours. So it's 3 hours later in the East than it is in California, isn't it? Yes. So do you recall whether it was about noon or 11 or what time in the morning he returned? I believe it was around 10. 10 in the morning? In the morning. So he took a red eye back. Yes, he did. Yes. What day did he go drive the Porsche? I would say it was a Friday, but I'm not certain. Did you take him to the US Open? Yes, sir. Twice. Once I did. Did you tell Mr. Khan and Ms. Nahara when you talked to them that you took him 2 times to the US Open? There's a little discrepancy in his narrative there. No, I said our company took him. John Aguero took him to the US Open that one day I was off. And you took him once? Yes, sir. And what day was that? I don't recall. Now, maybe we could take a piece of butcher paper if we could, Your Honor. Do we have some paper behind here still? The court says, I don't know. Counsel had some. Ms. Abramson says, Post-it notes. And the court says, I think the bailiff has it. Mr. Gessler says, I've got this stuff that might work. Court says, whichever you'd like to use. Mr. Gessler says, okay, we have August 28th at 6 p.m. is when you met. The bailiff says, question by the jury. The unidentified juror says, we can't see that, and the court says, perhaps you need a marker. Mr. Gessler says, a red one would be better. Let's start over. Is that better? And the jury answered in the affirmative. Okay, Mr. Gessler says, can you see it also, Mr. Wenskoski? Yes. August 28th at 6 p.m. is when you went over to the Hyatt and made the security arrangements there, the best you could for the rooms and taking care of things. Yes, sir. August 28th, I believe you've decided from the calendar, was a Monday. And that we have August 29th was that the day that you went to the US Open? I don't recall, sir. I don't recall. Do you recall if it was it was the week before Labor Day, wasn't it? That was when the US Open is played. I believe it ran right into the weekend of Labor Day. I'm not certain, though. I'm not certain. So do you remember who was playing the day that you took Mr. Menendez, what the marches were? No, sir, not at all. So it might have been August 29th. It might have been August 30th. Yes, sir. So either one of those days. Or even after, it could have been the Friday of September 1st. I don't recall, sir. All right. Okay. August 31st. That's when he's gone, right? He takes the plane and he leaves. Yes, sir. September 1st, he comes back at about 10 in the morning. Yes, sir. So it wasn't August 31st because he left to go to California. That's correct. It wasn't September 1st because he was coming back from California. It could have been because he came in early. Did you take him directly from the airport to the US Open? No, he went back to the hotel. Back to Princeton? Yes. And Newark is closer to the site of the US Open than Princeton? Yes. So Newark is the north part of New Jersey. It's the central part of the state, right across the river from New York City. Yes. The US Open is played in a part of New York City over on Long Island? I believe so, yes. So you went back to Princeton after you picked him up from the airport? Yes. Would have taken you probably until at least noon to get back to Princeton? Yes. You didn't turn around and go to the US Open that day, did you? I don't recall if we did, sir. You didn't go to the US Open September 2nd because that's when you left at noon to take part in your daughter's birthday celebration, right? I don't remember if I left that Saturday. I know I was gone on Sunday, and I probably returned that Monday, the following Monday. So now he's not sure when he took that day and a half off, but he was so certain on direct, remember? You said the day and a half, the day you took off on Saturday before Sunday. Yes. So that could have been September 2nd, wouldn't it be? Or wouldn't it? Yes. So you left at noon. Later. What time? About 6 in the evening. That wasn't the day for the US Open, was it? No, sir. Do you call 6 p.m. being half a day? When you're with somebody 24 hours? Yes. All right. September 3rd, you were gone the whole day? Uh-huh. September 4th, you got terminated? Yes. So it must have been August 29th or August 30th that you think you went to the US Open. Yes, sir. One of those days. Yes. What day did you go drive the Porsche? I don't recall, sir. It was in the evening hours, though. Could have been the 30th? I don't remember, sir. Wasn't after the US Open, was it? I don't remember, sir. Was it dark out when you went to see the Porsche? In the summer, the sun was setting, I think is what they're trying to say there. Where was the Porsche dealer? In Princeton. Ms. Abramson says, Your Honor, I can barely hear the witness. The witness says, in Princeton. Mr. Gessler says, on Route 1? Yes. Could you describe Route 1 for us, by the way? It's a highway that runs through New Jersey, 2 lanes, north and south, with portions of it has a concrete barrier in the middle. And it has traffic lights? Yes, sir. Intersecting streets from both sides? Yes. Busy street? Yes. And that's all the way up to Newark that way, isn't it? Yes. Now, whenever it was that you went to the Porsche dealer, you and Lyle Menendez went. Was there anybody else with him? No. Do you recall Glenn Stevens went on that occasion? I don't believe he did, no. So it was just you and him going to the Porsche dealer then? And my partner, John Aguero. And did all three of you then get into the Porsche? No. Who got into the Porsche? Lyle and myself. Yourself with him? Yes. And did he talk to you about the Porsche while he was driving it? No. Did he ask your advice? Yes. He asked you whether you thought this would be a good car for him? Yes. And whether you thought he'd like and enjoy it? Yes. And whether it was the right color, the right options? Yes. He asked me about the roof. You can get a couple of style roofs on these, I believe. And he asked you about the car in general, didn't he? Yes. And you answered him? Yes. And you told him, yeah, you thought it would be a good deal. Yes, I told him he'd probably lose his license. He drove a little fast, did he? Yes, he did. That was the ex-police officer in you, I imagine, or the father figure in you. I don't know, sir. Or both. Probably a little bit of both. Okay, so other than driving a little too fast, how long did the ride last? About 15-20 minutes. And then he brought it back to the dealer? Yes, sir. And it was some other occasion when you went with him to the patio home that's shown up there? Yes, sir. Was that the same day as he drove the Porsche? It could have been, sir. I don't remember the exact time element. So whatever day that was, it's one of the times you were there. Yes. Was it in the daytime? Yes. Do you remember if it was morning or afternoon? Early part of the morning, I believe. That wasn't the day that you went to the US Open? No, sir. Now, you went inside to the patio home with him? Yes. And he asked you if you liked that? Yes. Asked you about different features of the patio home? Yes. Sought your advice on it? Yes. And you gave him your advice? Yes. Told him that it looked like a good deal? Yes. Told him that you liked it too, right? Uh-huh. Yes, sir. And then the shopping trip to Forrestal, did you say that that's the one, the shopping areas that's located right off of Route 1 in Princeton? And what did he do? What day did he go there? Sorry. I don't remember, sir. Was it the same day as driving the Porsche? Some of those shopping sprees, Jamie was with him with the sporting goods. It could have been, sir. It could have been. So you don't remember? No, sir. It wasn't the day that you went to the US Open. It could have been the earlier part of the morning to that. Do you remember? We did a lot. He did a lot of he was very active. Do you remember if it was that day that you went to the US Open? I don't remember, sir. So you have no specific recollection of anything else that you did on that particular day? No, sir. Went in and got some clothes, shoes. On that day? Yes. During shopping? Yes. And when he went in shopping, did he also ask your advice? Yes, sir. He'd set out some shoes and shirts, would he? Yes. And was looking at suits? Yes. He'd match up, if he could, the shirt and ties and the shoes? Yes. And he'd say, Rich, what do you think about this? Yes. And he'd ask your advice about the clothes, too, wouldn't he? Yes, he would. And you'd give him your advice. Yes, sir. If it looked good on him, looked like a good combination, you'd say so? Yes. And that was what happened on these shopping trips that you were with him, wasn't it? Yes. Except for when he bought his tennis equipment, because I know nothing about tennis. So the tennis equipment he was able to buy on his own without asking. Yes. Everything else he asked your advice on purchases, didn't he? Yes. Mr. Gessler says, can I have a moment? He confers with Ms. Abramson. Ms. Gessler says, yes. What's the difference between a topless bar and a burlesque show? Well, a topless bar like we have in New Jersey, the young ladies just come out naked. A burlesque show, she had clothes on. Well, then they came out naked in a topless bar in New Jersey, you mean, from the waist or totally naked? From the waist up. And the topless bar that you went to here, what did they do? Well, I didn't classify that as a topless bar. Now I know that's what we call them in New Jersey. I mean, in California. Did the young ladies in the topless bar you went to with Detective Zoller come out naked from the waist up? No, sir. Did they get naked from the waist up? I believe they did. I don't remember that, though. It was the last stop of the evening. Why are we spending so much time talking about naked chicks in topless bars? I don't know. And the last time at the trial, when you were asked about the topless bar, you said, no, I didn't do that. You remember that, didn't you? Yes, I did. But you didn't classify this place where the young men or where the young women got naked from the waist up as being a topless bar. No, sir. It didn't meet your definition? No, sir. So he lied, and he got caught. Mr. Gessler says, Mr. Wenskoski, did you lie about that topless bar to protect Detective Zoller? No, sir. Was there anything about your ex-police officer experience that made you feel, gee, I just don't want to say that in front of a jury the last time and burn him? No, sir. You did quite a bit of socializing with Detective Zoller when you were out here, didn't you? Oh boy. I did not know that. I did some. Yes, sir. Had some drinks? Yes. He took you out on the town, basically. Yes, sir. Tried to be hospitable to you? Oh, he's trying to get some kind of testimony from him. That's what I think. Yes. You felt a certain sense of loyalty to him, didn't you? Yes, sir. Mr. Gessler says, nothing further. Any redirect? Mr. Khan has a couple questions. Not really sure why we're going back to redirect because Eric's attorneys didn't get a chance to cross-examine him, but okay. So Mr. Khan says, as far as your statement of the time that you took Lyle Menendez to the airport, is that a rough estimate? Yes. For all the purchases that Lyle Menendez made in your presence, did he ever ask you whether or not he should spend the money? No, sir. So that was his decision to spend the money? Yes. Thank you. Nothing further. The court says anything else? Mr. Gessler says nothing further. The court says, okay, you may step down. So I guess there was no redirect from whatchamacallit. Or not redirect. There was no cross from Eric's team. Well, oh, because this was only for Lyle, duh. He did say that in the beginning. Okay. Because he never even met Erik, or he only met Erik that once. So that is the end of Mr. Richard Wenskoski's testimony. The court says, thank you. You may step down. You're excused. The witness says, thank you, sir. The court says, as we indicated, as far as the jury is concerned, we'll be in recess until tomorrow at 8:30. Don't discuss this case with anyone and don't form any final opinions about it. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 8:30. Mr. Gessler says, yes, could we mark that as, the court says, yes, we could mark that as Exhibit 134. And okay, they marked that. Now we're going to go into, or not now, this will be the next episode, but we're going to, I think this is the Islamania. I don't know. They're going into a hearing. We'll go into that in the next episode. I think this is the Islamania hearing that they said they were going to do. But they're going into arguments first. So we'll get to that in the next episode. So thank you guys so much for being with me here for the read through of uh, Donovan Goodreau and Richard Wenskoski, and we shall see if I'm looking forward to them bringing Donovan Goodreau back on the stand for the defense's case. So that'll be interesting. I think they could have done a lot more damage on him, but they didn't get into everything. The state didn't, so they couldn't all bring it up on cross-examination. So they're going to have to call him back. So here we go. That's it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Please hit that like button on your way out. Bye now.